open and transparent here.
In our relationship, in the beginning of our relationship, I was very
Add some
hard.
extra. Add some extra. A little bit more. But if you don't deal with your stuff, that stuff is going to show up in your relationship.
I feel like every relationship that you have is to grow you in some type of way.
Welcome, guys. My name is Dane.
My name is Dalapa.
And this is what we hope to be many of really
the first of many
podcasts in a series called MarriedEverAfter.
This is the MarriedEverAfter podcast.
This is the MarriedEverAfter podcast. As you can tell, this is the first time we're doing this.
That's why he sounds very nervous.
I am extremely nervous. I wouldn't say I'm uncomfortable in front of cameras. I'm just trying to get used to this whole thing. So, why did we want to do this?
First of all, we both wanted to do this because we just feel like we have something to offer. We listen to a lot of relationship podcasts. Like we watch a lot of relationship podcasts on YouTube, and we just felt like we have a unique perspective based on our own experiences.
That's correct. I would
definitely
say that.
We've been together for
a very long time. A minute, Do you want to tell me?
So soon, in a couple of months, our relationship will be old enough to drink. You could figure that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Drinking in all 50 states.
Yeah, and we just feel like with our own perspectives, that's what makes our own relationship unique. Everybody's relationship is unique because it's two unique individuals coming together.
Right.
So that automatically makes your relationship unique, and it automatically gives you a different perspective on your own, personal relationship. And we feel like we have, a range of different things and insights and experiences that we can share in the platform in hopes that it may inspire, encourage, motivate, not just others, but ourselves as well.
Absolutely. And just to touch on that even further, I mean, for us, like my wife said, we've gone through many different things, and thank God our relationship has grown. It's become stronger. There's a lot of things that we've learned through the process of literally growing up together.
Yeah.
We met when we were fairly young.
Yeah.
And
we were still teenagers.
And just on the cusp of about to becoming quote unquote adults. And but that thing about becoming adults is really kind of skewed, I think, and in my opinion, because there's a lot of things and a lot of pressures that are applied to young kids of becoming adults, but you may not understand what that may mean, and especially in the terms of relationships. And if you haven't been around strong relationships growing up, it makes it even harder, because you're like, how is a relationship really supposed to work?
Yeah, and like you said, if you haven't been around strong relationship, if you haven't been around healthy relationships, if you come from a place where the relationships you saw were like volatile or were not healthy, or, in your situation, you grew up with your grandparents,
right.
So you didn't really see your mother or your father, they weren't together.
No.
You didn't see how a relationship, it's supposed to be. Well, outside of your grandparents, like
right.
You saw that they loved each other and stuff like that. But still, even their relationship, you saw things that you didn't want to emulate, and you saw things that you did want to emulate. So I think that's what it's really about.
Yeah.
I feel like even in our relationship, as we continue with this podcast, you'll see that there's no way that we are perfect in any way.
At all.
We've
We're
made a
absolutely
lot of
not
mistakes. When it comes to each other, we made a lot of mistakes when it came to communication, when it came to being stuck in our feelings.
Very much so.
And this podcast is really to create like a safe space for us to be open,
right?
For us to get feedback from you guys, and
of course,
for us to not just, like I said, encourage you guys, but to encourage ourselves, because we're still in the relationship.
Yeah, thank God.
And, by the grace of God, we still have many, 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 many years and decades and, to come. And, every day it's, like when it comes to marriage, I feel like every day is you committing to be here. You know what I'm saying? I feel like every day is like a renewing, to say, I choose to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the name of our podcast, Married Ever After, the reason why we chose that name is because, growing up, I used to read a lot of like fairy tales and, at the end
Cinderella and all
of,
that other
yeah, at
stuff.
the end of the fairy tale, the princess always ends up with Prince Charming and they lived happily ever after. But what the fairy tale doesn't tell you is what happens after that part. After they get married,
Right.
do they have arguments?
We don't know.
Does her husband do chores? Is she expected to cook and clean all the time? Like, what is the dynamic of their relationship? Do they bump heads because they're two unique individuals
Very true.
coming from two separate
Perspectives.
perspectives, two separate upbringings,
Right.
two separate experiences? Do they clash? And the fairy tales never tell you that. They just make it seem like everything is rainbows and fairies and they live
And
happily
unicorns.
ever after and unicorns.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you about the arguments, the disagreements, and all that kind of stuff. They don't tell you about the marriage.
And that's the
So-
thing, for me, I didn't grow up reading a lot of, fairy tales and stuff like that. I was aware of them. I grew up in a very strict household with my grandparents, and I was limited in the amount of things that I was able to learn from and pull from. What I was able to do at times is watch a lot of sitcoms and older shows that were in syndication from the 60s and 70s, and even like Leave It to Beaver. So you have this idea fundamentally of what you think a marriage should look like based on what you see on television. And the reality is it's not like that. And for us, why I'm glad we chose the name Married Ever After is because once you do get married, once you do have that commitment of marriage, there is the after. And that looks different to everybody. Yeah, I grew up with my grandparents, and they were together literally. They were married for 50 years, and my grandfather passed away. I think a week after that, something of that nature. But they were together for a while. But with your family, you said that you saw a lot of things that you didn't like
Yeah,
in your parents' marriage.
Yeah, my parents' marriage, I saw a lot of things that I did not want in my relationships when I grew up. So for me, back to the why we chose the name Married Ever After is to show people that after the wedding is the marriage. And the marriage is something that you commit to daily. It's something that when you say your vows that you're going to be with this person for the rest of your life, there will come times where you question that because you're two people bumping heads and
Very
you're like,
much so.
can I deal with this? Is this something I really want to do for the rest of my life? But at the end of the day, it's a daily commitment to be there. It's a daily commitment to say, I choose you, even though I may not like you
at the moment.
in
And
the
that's
moment.
important. That's absolutely important.
In our relationship, we learn the difference between like and love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I love you forever.
And I love you forever too.
But I may not like you all the time. And that's okay because we're two different individuals. I may not like certain things that you do.
Right.
I may not like certain things that you say or how you say it or whatever. But at the end of the day, you should always know without a shadow of a doubt that I love you. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
back to why we chose the name, I just feel like sometimes when it comes to marriage, people take it lightly sometimes.
I agree.
People don't realize that you're not always going to like the person that you're with. Generally, overall, you should like the person that you're with. But I'm saying in
Absolutely.
every moment,
Right.
you may not always like what a person does. You may not like always what a person has to say. But if you choose to marry the person, I feel like when you get to that point of marriage, you should generally like the person as a whole. Right. And obviously, you should love that person. And that person should know that when you say something that they don't like, right? Or when you do something that they may not like, right? They should always know that at the core, you love them.
And that, I'm glad you said that because this goes back to a conversation we were having the other day, right? And, I guess making a pop culture reference, Cardi B, right? Mm-hmm. She filed for divorce. Mm-hmm. And you and I have been on this journey for a long time. And one thing that I said was that it's hard, I wouldn't say marriage is hard and marriage isn't easy. It's a journey. And on that journey, because we are using ourselves, are two different people from two different backgrounds, two different cultures, a lot of two different things. But when you come together, if you don't deal with your own personal issues, they're going to show up in marriage. Absolutely, hands down, fundamentally. There's not this magic thing that happens when you get married and everything is poof and is gone. And you're just going to be all the way intimate and all the time intimate with your spouse. Yeah, that's great. And it does happen. But if you don't deal with your stuff, that stuff is going to show up in your relationship.
I feel like every relationship that you have is to grow you in some type of way, whether it's sibling relationships, parental relationship, grandparents,
Right.
cousins, friends, and even your intimate partner or your husband or wife. I feel like in marriage, what it does, because like you said, two different perspectives, what it does is like whatever your issues are before the marriage that you didn't handle, that you didn't deal with during your single time or whatever.
Right.
I feel like, oh, you're not in the frame.
Oh, my bad.
Our first time.
Yeah,
You know.
bear with us.
I feel like whatever your whatever your issues are before you get married, when you get married, it's like intensified, because now you have somebody that's living with you, that you see every day for the most part, that you're with all the time for the most part, that will do certain things, not because they're trying to be mean or they're trying to be purposeful to upset you, but they're just some things that they may do that may provoke something in you that you did not deal with, So a lot of times I've come to realize, even in our own relationships, because in our relationship, we're going to be open here.
Very open and transparent here.
In our relationship, in the beginning of our relationship, I was very, very hard.
Yo, add some extra. Add some extra. A little bit more.
I was very hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was very rough. Okay? And that's because now looking back, I can see my younger self and I have compassion for her because she was very broken. She was very hurt. She had the weight of the world on her shoulders and she did not know how to communicate. She didn't have the verbiage. And not even just the verbiage, because I feel like even if I had the verbiage, I didn't want to deal with what communication can bring up.
If I may interject a little bit, you didn't have the verbiage. You didn't also have the tools, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think you were ready.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like I wasn't ready to deal with what communication would bring up. I wasn't ready to deal with the ramifications of me communicating my feelings, me communicating the things I've been through, me communicating my heart, because I felt like, number one, reality, when you express your full self, right? Your emotions, your feelings, it makes you very, very vulnerable. And at that time, I was in self-protection mode. And when you're in self-protection mode, the last thing you can be is also vulnerable, because vulnerable means you have to open up yourself. Right?
Very true. Very true.
Like when you open up your heart, you open up your feelings. It's really like you're naked before somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And in that moment, when I first met you, when we were like in the beginning of our relationship, I was not ready for that. I was not ready to be vulnerable because I've been in protective mode for so long because of my past experiences.
I understand.
I felt like I had to protect myself. Number one, we're in a new relationship. I don't really know you like that, and even when I started to know you like that, I was still like,
you were questioning everything.
I don't know you like that.
You were really questioning everything.
Everything, because I had serious trust issues, like serious trust issues. I feel like when you've been through certain situations where the people that you trust is the people that hurt you, or the people that were supposed to protect you,
right,
are the people that hurt you, it gives you deep-rooted trust issues with
Absolutely.
everyone. So in our relationship, like I said, for many years of our relationship, I wasn't hard for a couple months.
Nah.
I wasn't hard for a couple weeks.
You were hard even up until the time we got married.
I was
Actually, you was
hard.
hard. Yeah, like
You know,
hard.
like being with him softened me. Like, it's like, imagine like you have a big brick wall,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Being with him allowed me to literally take one brick down at a time. You know how people say, oh, I met Prince Charming and I met the perfect guy and he brought down my walls. No. Maybe one brick at a time.
Listen,
and
fellas, that's patience. That's
and not
patience.
even just that. When I would get upset, that brick will go back up. So we would have to start all over. Okay?
I know there's a lot of guys asking out there, bro, like how did you?
Yeah, and we're gonna get to that because
Yeah.
I do want you to share like what gave you the patience. Because I'm gonna be very real. I'm gonna be very real. If the roles were reversed and the shoe was on the other foot, and I was him having to deal with me and the way that I was and my behavior at that time, there is no way we would have still been in this relationship. There's just no way. Because looking back at myself, I was just like, girl, you were hard.
Can I at least give a slight framework?
Yes, please.
All right. So, not going into the full details of, what my patience entailed. For me, when I met my wife for the first time, I'm going to try not to drag out the story, but basically I was in a very lost place myself. I just lost my mom a few years back. I'd gone through a lot of different ups and downs, trauma, different things. And when I met her, the moment almost immediately when I saw who you were, I just wanted to know who she was. And when we developed a friendship at first, I realized that we shared a lot of similarities in our past of things that we've gone through and things that we've been through. And funny enough, you actually were the one who shared with me first what you had gone through. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, like I went through the same thing. And there was something innate in me that even before that, just getting to know who you were, because I was totally not just attracted to you beauty, but there was something in you and around you that I was like, whoever you are, I need to be a part of that. And once we started to share, and once you really started to let go, I had this innate thing to say, okay, that's not the real you. Like that hardness wasn't the real you. I could see through all of that. I could really see that that's not Dalapa. That's not who you really are. That's a version of hurt. And because you are hurt and you're hurting, I'm not going to take that as that who is who you are in total. I'm like, that's just a part of the experience. Yes, the experience was a lot longer than I may have anticipated, but I knew that the real you was there. And I knew if I could pray, which I did a lot, which I was patient, which I had a lot of, which I didn't know where it came from except God, right? The real you would show up and you won't be hurt. You won't be broken. You won't be all of those things that you were hard. But I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm not an angel. I had my own issues as well. And, if the shoe was on the other foot, I don't know if I would have been able to deal with me because in my opinion, I'm not like the easiest guy in the world. But for you, it was just like, I didn't want to give up.
All that is nice and all. But at the end of the day, like I said, if the shoe was on the other foot, looking back at my younger self, I don't know if I would have had that patience. I feel like that patience that you had really was the grace of God upon our relationship, because when I tell you I was hard, I had a nasty attitude. My mouth was reckless. And I could be open and honest about this because that's not who I am anymore.
Nah.
You know what I'm saying? But looking back at my younger self, and I don't even blame her, to be honest, I don't even blame her for her behavior, because she was coming from a place of hurt. She was coming from a place of disappointment, of anger, of fear, all those kind of things. And all those kind of things really does change a person's character. It changes the person's characteristics. I always say, like the people that are the angriest, the people with the nastiest attitudes, the people with the most reckless mouths, they're like that because somebody along the way hurt them. They are like that because at the core, they are very sensitive. They are very sensitive people. So when you see a person that is nasty all the time, I'm not saying you have to put up with their nonsense. No, because like I said, the shoe is on the foot. I don't think I'll be able to put up with me. But I would just say to have a place in your heart where you can see or where you can share a little compassion, knowing that when a person is like that, that's not regular nature. You know what I'm saying?
Nah.
That's not regular for somebody to be angry and nasty all the time.
It's not.
It's not. I feel like sometimes people take people just based on what
The
they
surface.
see, right? But a lot of times when people are hurt, or when people are nasty, it's because they really are sensitive and they are hurt. So they put up this wall, they put up this facade of, I don't care what you say, you can't mess with me, I'm going to cut you first before you cut me, and all that kind of stuff, because it's a protection mechanism.
Now, that's exactly what it is. It is a protection mechanism. It's put in place so nobody else can hurt.
Exactly.
And
because you're so sensitive, your biggest fear is being hurt even more. So you're like, okay, I've already been hurt. Because obviously for you to put up those walls and to have that attitude and all that kind of stuff is because somebody hurt you already.
Right.
And because you're sensitive, it cuts you deep to your core. And you're like, I never want to feel this way again. So the only way I can protect myself from feeling this way again is to be on the offensive. I'm not going to let anybody get close. I'm not going to let anybody think they could talk reckless to me. I'm not going to let anybody hurt my feelings. I would rather hurt your feelings first and be labeled whatever you want to label me, a bitch, be labeled a asshole, be labeled whatever I'm going to be labeled, than for you to hurt me again. Because even in our relationship, that was where we were at in the beginning. It's like, yeah, you're nice and all, but at the end of the day, it's like, I don't know if I want to get too close, because when you get too close to people, your feelings get involved. And when your feelings get involved, it means you can be hurt.
I'm laughing on the inside and now on the outside because I'm remembering, that time when we first got together. And I remember I fell for you pretty hard, like right away. And, be honest, I told you I loved you almost immediately. And I remember this to this day. And I quote, this woman, I go, you know what? I think I'm in love with you. She goes,
Come on. Your girl was a G. Come on.
Yo, you were a G though. I ain't gonna lie. You was like, you don't love me. You love the thought of me.
Boom, boom,
And
boom, boom.
and we're both young at the time, so it's like,
What?
whoa, what?
Who says
that? Yo,
a
like,
G.
yo, that's why I'm still married to her today. She is a G. But the reality is like, I knew I did love her. But she didn't realize the depth of that love.
And not even like I didn't realize the depth of the love. At that time, I didn't realize
didn't.
it. But at the end of the day, it was like I wasn't ready to experience that kind of love, because it's like, in order for me to accept it, I have to be vulnerable, right?
Yeah, and you
I
really
have to
weren't.
be vulnerable enough to say, wow, this person loves me enough to tell me that he loves me. And for me, it was like, that means I have to make a decision,
Right.
to either be like, either we're gonna like break up, or I have to let my guard down. I have to take a brick down to receive this love. And at that point, when he told me that, I was just like, it's like your mind is going, Mayday, 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 something. Whoa, feelings, what's going on? What's happening? And I wasn't ready for that in that moment. That's why I said, you don't love me. You love the thought of me. Because even at that time, I was like, how can he even love me? Like, we've only been together at that point, a couple months?
No, we weren't even like official yet. We were
Yeah,
like
we wasn't
just
even like
we were hanging out.
official. We're just
and
hanging out. It's like, trying to see if this is gonna be a relationship, type of thing.
Right.
And he's telling me he loves me, and I'm just like, what? Because also this, transparency, like he's my first real relationship. So at that point, I'm like, you're my first real boyfriend. Like,
Yeah.
how do you love me? We only been together like a little bit of time. Like, what?
I think-
And like I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off, but
it's
like I
okay.
said, also, it's like for somebody to tell you that they love you, they themselves are being vulnerable, right? So when you receive that vulnerability, like I said, you have to make a choice, a decision to and decide, where do we go from here? Because if I totally and utterly reject this vulnerability that he's giving me, he's going to close up, or this relationship is going to be over,
Right.
or I can decide to let my guard down a little bit and be a little bit more vulnerable and see where it goes, right?
Right.
But in that moment, it was really like a Mayday situation. Because also, like I said, I just couldn't understand how you were at that place of, oh, I love you. Because in my mind, I wasn't there yet.
So maybe I should step in and give you a little bit, or give the audience a little bit more perspective of where I was. So at that time, for me, when we met, I mean, you knew where I was. So it was hard. I was going through just a whole lot. And for me at the time meeting you, it literally was an answer to a prayer that I had long before I even knew you were in existence. Because I didn't, like you said, I didn't grow up in a situation where I saw my parents married. I didn't see them. I didn't even see my mom a lot. I didn't even meet my dad until I was a lot older. I'm not sure if I'm in focus. Okay, there we go. I didn't meet my dad until I was probably my late 20s, early 30s. And so I didn't see that relationship. And my grandparents, while they were together for a long time, there was not the type of things that I would like to see in a relationship. And I knew at a young age, I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids, but I didn't want, to be bouncing around in relationships. I knew what I wanted. I asked God for that. And the day I met you, internally, something just checked off all the boxes. So when I really got the chance to know you, that connection for me grew stronger.
Right. I
And
think it's like what they said is like what guys is like, when they know, they know.
oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But for me, like I said, I wasn't there yet. And also the reason why I said you love the thought of me is because I did know where you were coming from. I did know that, because, the first few weeks, like after we met and we became friends, like we shared a lot with each other, right? So I did know you were coming from a place of like a lot was going on, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, maybe he likes the thought of having like a girlfriend that's, that's always there, or the thought of having just somebody that shows him like affection and, all that kind of stuff. Even though I wasn't overly affectionate.
You weren't.
Either.
And that to me, like, I feel kind of weird when you say that, because you weren't.
Yeah,
I
wasn't
I
overly
remember for a
affectionate.
long time you was like, oh, no PDA, no holding hands in public. There was a lot of that, but it wasn't, for me, it wasn't that, like, because remember, I was also leaving a relationship
Right.
at that time too. So it wasn't that. It was just like you said, when guys know, they know. And for me, I was the total opposite. I was very vulnerable, because for me, I felt like I found the one. So for me, everything was like, okay, well, this is it. There's no.
And that scared me because I'm like, I'm a freshman.
I mean,
in
we were both
college.
freshmen, so
And it's like,
you didn't have no plans of
What-
being in a relationship when
remember,
you first
I
came in.
broke up with somebody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he wasn't even like a real relationship. He was just, I only was with him for like a couple of weeks or whatever. But it was like, I told him, I'm like, I'm about to go to school.
This is her
and-
ex-boyfriend, by the way. She's selling this
And I'm
conversation.
like, I'm
too.
about to go to school and I don't want no relationship. I want to be able to just study, focus on my books and, do well in school. And I
Right.
don't want no distractions. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And this is what I told him before, I started school. So when you came along and we became like, we just hit it off right away, I was just like, what is happening here?
See, God had other plans for you
God definitely
that
had
you
other
weren't
plans.
prepared for.
Definitely had other plans because I did not go in. You know how some like people go to college, they're like, oh, I'm about to get
It's about
wild
to
in
be lit
here.
in here.
I'm about to be wild. That was not me.
That
I
wasn't me
was
either.
like,
But you know,
I'm going to school, got my classes lined up. This is what I'm going to be doing. I know what groups I'm going to join, all those kind of things. And I'm just going to be about school life.
listen, let me tell y'all facts. It didn't happen
It
that
didn't
way.
happen that
No,
way.
it like we met a few weeks before school started
Yeah.
because I was actually at the school earlier for a school program,
For a summer program.
for a summer program to get myself acclimated to
Right.
college.
And then my friend was in that, my best friend at the time was also in that program.
Yes.
So I would go there like a week or two before school actually started and to like register and all that kind of stuff because my friend and I wanted to be at the same school.
And that's where we met.
And
That's how we met.
That's how we met because my friend that was doing the summer program was also friends with him.
Yeah.
And I remember when she started the summer program and she called me from there. And I was like, oh, how's it going? I miss you and all that kind of stuff. Are you making friends? Blah, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, I'm making friends, blah, blah, blah. And then she told me about him.
Oh
She's
man,
like, oh, there's
here
this
it comes.
guy.
Here it comes.
Listen, there's this guy, he's really cool. His name is Dane. Oh, and he's engaged.
Oh yeah, we got to get to that one. We
I
got to get to
said,
that one.
and it was funny because me talking to my friend on the phone, I was like, he engaged? How old is he?
Yeah, nah.
She was like, oh, he's a freshman too. And I was just like, that sounds crazy. Your friend is crazy. Anyways, and we just like continued.
And I wasn't in the military, so there's that.
Yeah, he wasn't in the military.
No.
I don't know why he was engaged at that age, but whatever. But
We'll
after
get to that in later
just,
episodes.
I just dismissed the
logic of it.
the conversation with my friend or whatever. But then when I would go up there to visit her, she introduced us and all this kind of stuff. And I remember talking to him and all this, and we just was like, for some reason, we just clicked. We just clicked. And I was just like, what is going on here? But at first, it wasn't like even on a like romantic type of thing at all. It was literally friends. Like we would just have like cool conversations. When my friend, when I go to register and my friend and him actually come pick me up to go to take the train and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like it was so funny because it was the three of us, me, my best friend and Dane. But it was myself and Dane that would have like these long
conversations,
deep conversations on the subway. And my friend is just busy off, like just doing her own thing. Like I kind of felt bad because it was like.
And this is before cell phones and Instagram.
So it was
and
like she
all
just
this
would
other stuff.
entertain herself. And it wasn't even like it was romantic type of thing. I didn't even look at him that way at all. Because like I said, my mind was, I'm going to school. I'm not trying to be in no relationship. He's engaged. So I'm like, I'm not even looking at him at all.
It's fun. All right, so there's a lot of cleaning up that I got to do here, and that's fine.
I mean, we're not going to get deep into that.
No,
That's
I'm not.
Another episode.
That's definitely for another episode. But I would say that with the conversations that we were having was phenomenal, and I think what really, for me, highlighted that I had a lot of decision making to do as in terms of the direction I wanted to go was really orientation night. That party that we had, orientation night, and I'm not gonna lie to you. When I first met you, at the moment I met you, I didn't think that I would even have an opportunity or a chance for it to blossom outside of a friendship, right? But I think something deeper was like, nah, that's who you're gonna be with. But I think I kind of was like, nah, I'm already involved, blah, 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 blah. Long story short, when we had that night where we started dancing, again, I don't even remember all these years later. And there's a lot of things I remember from our relationship. But that, when we first started to dance, literally movie type stuff happened where like everything slowed down. The lights got fuzzy. It looks like bokeh from a camera. We're looking at each other and our heads touch and like literally everything fades. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? And you said that you experienced the same thing.
I did.
So I always thought that was something in movies, right? Or TV shows.
It really happens.
Really did happen.
It really did happen where everything it was in the middle of a party,
Yeah.
and everything literally slowed
Slow down.
down.
Yeah.
And it really did feel like it was just the two of us
That's it.
on the dance floor. Like
Yeah.
it was so weird because I'm a rom-com girl, okay? I love romantic comedies. I'm a rom-com girl. I
I
grew up on them. Like I know them, right?
I've never
But even
watched Prior
in
to My
watching
Wife.
rom-coms, when you see it in romantic comedies where everything slows down and they just look at each other and it's like, oh, you're the one for me and I'm the one for you, and they just realize it by looking at each other's eyes. Even though I'm a rom-com girl, a part of me was still like,
This
that
never
ain't
happens in real
real.
life.
That ain't real. That's just to emphasize the moment.
Right.
But it is real.
No,
it really
it
happened.
absolutely happened.
It really happened. And I was just like,
It,
what
it was the
is happening here?
yeah, not to cut you off, that it was by far the it wasn't weird as in terms of, oh my god, this is bad, but it was the most interesting, weirdest event in my, I think, in our entire life, outside of, at the time, outside of getting married and then you getting pregnant and then having our son. Right. But at the time, you're talking about two teenagers, and we're like, whoa, like this is some real deal Holyfield type stuff. Like, I never expected that. And once that time happened, or we shared that moment, it made me go, oh, wait, there's something more here. And I had to go through the process of, okay, seeing where I wanted to be. Took a little bit longer than I wanted to, and that was totally on me because I had those issues that I was dealing with. But once we made that commitment of being together, that was it. Like that was it. And I had no problem being vulnerable. I had no problem with sharing. I was really open, to be very honest with you. And I think it wasn't like it was a strategy or a plan. It was just who I am. Like I'm just a very open individual. But also I felt that if I was able to be open with you, right, it would help you to feel more comfortable to be open as well. So
Right.
it wasn't.
But I received it in a different way
I
because
understand
I
that.
received it as, number one, let me preface this by saying I'm a Brooklyn girl. Okay. We don't just wake up and just trust people. Okay. Besides my own hurts and pains and all that kind of stuff, I grew up a Brooklyn girl.
Crown
I'm
Heights.
Nigerian to the root, okay? But I grew up a Brooklyn girl. And even being Nigerian, we don't just be trusting people, okay?
There's no way.
We don't do that, okay? That's a whole nother video. The traumas of being Nigerian and trusting people. But anyways, but like I said, I took it as, what does he want? Why is he sharing all of this? Why is he so open? Why is he so vulnerable? He must want something. Like, what does he want? That's how I took it. Because like I said, I was not in the position to be vulnerable yet. I just was not there. So because I was not there, I looked at everything skeptically. You know what I'm saying? I was skeptical about everything. I questioned everything because to me, because I wasn't a vulnerable person at that point, I was like, if this guy is this vulnerable, he has to have an ulterior motive. There has to be something that he wants because he shared so much and was open about so much of his life and was open with everything. And I was just like, what? So I took it a different way. I see, looking back, I can see how you would feel like, okay, if I'm open with her,
Right.
it'll make her feel comfortable enough to be open with me.
Right.
But like I said, because I'm coming from a place of trauma,
Right.
And I'm coming from a place of hurt
Yeah.
and disappointments and all that kind of stuff from people or from a person that was supposed to, protect me and
Right.
all
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
I took it as, no. Nobody is this nice for no reason, And because outside of being open, he was also very, very nice, like very kind, very sensitive to my feelings, very sensitive to things that I wanted, or things that I needed, very sensitive and nice and kind. And couple that with him being open, it was like, he can't be this good. This is too good to be true. This is too good. No, I have to be skeptical.
And funny enough, all these years later, I'm still that way.
He's That's the thing. Like that's what I'm realizing. Like that's what helps to bring down a brick at a time for me, was realizing that even after years, he was still the same person. Like there was no, oh, I got her now, let me be an asshole. No. Like he was still the same person. Like he's a really kind soul. Like he really is. Sometimes, yeah, we bump heads, we get on each other's nerves. He does things that I don't like. I do things he doesn't like. But at the end of the day, who he showed me in the beginning really is who he is. But for me, it was the opposite, because who I showed him in the beginning wasn't who I really was.
And I knew
Right?
that though.
Who I showed him in the beginning was the girl that was protecting who I really am. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
I feel like that's who I showed you. Like I was still, don't get me wrong, I wasn't a total bitch. There were times where I was really nice and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Obviously, for us,
For
this
us to still to
relationship
be
to work,
together, right?
there was times where I had to, be, show him who I really was. Obviously,
Right.
but for me, I feel like the person that I introduced you to at first
Right.
was the person that was protecting who I am now.
Let me-
Because I feel like that person, with years of therapy and all the things that we've been through and all the lessons that we learned,
Right.
I realized that I did not have to keep holding on to that person anymore. But in the beginning, that was who you met. The girl that was like, I'm not going to let you hurt her. I'm
Right.
not going to let you play her. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And she ain't about to just let you walk all over her and all that kind of stuff. That's
So,
who you met.
Let's clean this up a little bit, because you're right in a lot of things that who you introduced me to, right? But from my point of view, it wasn't, right? Who you were when we literally first met was kind, sweet, sensitive, caring. I remember that, right? Because I remember that there were certain things for me that I was just like, whoa, totally attracted me to you, right? It was that version of you that you're referring to really came into play when things started to get serious.
I agree. I think when I first met you, because I did meet you as the friend of my best friend.
Right.
Right? So it's like, okay, you're the friend of my best friend. I love my best friend. You're going to be my friend too.
And that's our 45.
That's just letting us know that we only got 15 minutes left. Okay, so you're the friend of my best friend. So obviously we're going to be friends. So, I'm going to be nice to you. I'm going to be kind. Obviously if my friend likes you as a friend, then we're going to, you have to be a nice person. So I'm going to be nice to you also. I think it wasn't until, like you said, we decided to have a real relationship
Yeah.
that my protective self was like, nah, because a real relationship involves vulnerability.
And that's something I don't think, as you said, you weren't comfortable with it. You weren't comfortable with being vulnerable.
Right.
And I understood
Because
that.
if you were just going to be my friend, especially at that point, I don't have to be like super vulnerable, to be
Right,
honest. Like
right.
I don't have to be.
Right.
Because I already have a best friend. We you as my friend, we just probably just gonna hang out, go to the movies, do stuff as in groups. I don't have to be super vulnerable.
Yeah.
But when we decided to say, okay, we're gonna be more than just good friends, we're gonna have a real relationship.
Right.
When you have a real relationship, that involves vulnerability.
And that's the thing for me. I think from the time we really started to talk and connect, deep down, I think I just knew I wanted more. And I was willing to ride that out, how long it took. Don't get me wrong. It was hard. It was really hard, because there were some times I would be like, yo, like, are you always going to be like this?
Yeah.
And for me, again,
And to be honest, and that's an honest question to ask yourself, because in that moment, I thought I was always going to be like that.
right.
So that's a fair question to ask.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I thought that's who I was.
Yeah, but like I said, once I really had the chance to go to God and also think about the fact that you were hurt, I was hurt, and the maybe I'll call it weird from my own point of view. I went through a lot of hurt, as you know, right? But I was not willing, and a lot of the times, and I mean, I got caught up in my own issues as well. But I wasn't willing to allow that to make me a hard, callous person. Like I wasn't willing to do that. I wasn't willing to degrade. Not, and I'm not saying you did that, but for me, I didn't want to change my integrity because of the path that unfortunately I had to go through. I knew that I wanted to be the best version of me, not just for the world, but for whoever I wanted to be with. And when you came into the picture, and I say this to you all the time, you saved my life because of where I was going. And you gave me an opportunity to say, okay, God sees where I'm at. He's giving me another chance. And I'm going to do whatever I can and whatever it takes to make sure that I don't mess up the gift that I believe God was giving me and has given me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are my best friend. You are, my everything. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that, thank God, we've been together this long, by God's grace, a century more, depending on how health and science and everything goes. And, even the fact that we're now parents, you know what I'm saying? And that journey that we have gone through with becoming parents, I wouldn't want this journey with anyone else. And I'm not just saying that for this. I'm saying this because I tell you this all the time, right? All the things that we both had to go through. And even with, reflecting on it now, it was worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like it was worth it.
Looking back at it now, all our ups and downs, all my, trauma, and I'm not saying the trauma part, but I'm saying all us working through the trauma.
Right.
And working through your traumas and all those kind of things to where we are now, I really do thank God. Like I tell you all the time, like I thank God for not allowing us to mess this up.
Yeah, no, for real.
Because
Absolutely.
there were times where either one of us
could have blown this thing way out of the water.
Blown it out of the water. There were times where we both were bumping heads so bad.
Oh my God.
There were times where we were both so volatile with each other because of trauma. And that's what, like, that's the real reason also why we wanted to start this podcast. Is coming at this, like I said, from a different perspective, or actually not necessarily different, but sharing our own perspectives on relationship, but from a point of two separate people with two separate backgrounds coming together as one, dealing and processing trauma, and seeing how trauma has affected our behaviors, our mindsets, seeing how trauma has not letting go and processing trauma has held us captive for a long time. Realizing that when you don't face things that hurt you, when you don't confront things, when you don't face your past, when you don't confront your fears, all those kind of things play into the person that you become, whether it's good or bad. And it affects your relationship, and it affects how you deal with people. And the number one person that you deal with all the time is your spouse. So that's why, we say that sometimes being in a relationship, it provokes things in you that you haven't dealt with, that you haven't processed, because that you're thinking, oh, this is who I am, but it's not necessarily who you are. That's who you are with unprocessed trauma. You know what I'm saying? And I just want this podcast to be a place where people can see through our own experiences that, when you get the help that's necessary, it doesn't necessarily mean life is easy peasy, but at the end of the day, it does make your relationship sweeter.
It does.
It does make your relationship worthwhile more, because some people, they feel like their relationship isn't worthwhile, they just want to give up on the relationship. And I just feel like sometimes, yeah, it is necessary to walk away from a relationship when when certain circumstances are before you. Yeah, it is necessary to walk away, but at the same time, I feel like people need to also realize that a lot of the issues in relationship is not the other person.
No, it's usually yourself.
It's usually
Yeah.
yourself. The other person provokes things in you that are unprocessed. You know, like before, like I said, in our relationship, I was very hard. Little things he would do would have me flipping out. Little things. You know what I'm saying? And it got to a point where I remember asking God to help me, because I remember, like, further on into our relationship, I remember talking to God and just being like, God, he is so kind. He is so kind. And I am so mean. Lord, help me. I don't want to be this way. It's not this, the way that I am is not normal. I'm like, nobody should want to be upset all the time. That's not normal,
And
you
she
know?
was
And I was upset all
all
the
the time.
time because I had so much unprocessed anger, unprocessed hurt, unprocessed rage and fears, and all these things that I did not deal with. And we're going to get into it in other videos, but he had it too.
Oh yeah, I had.
But his just manifested in different ways. Mine was just at the surface all the time.
I tamped down a lot of my own personal demons or whatever it is that you want to call it, my own fears, my own self-esteem issues that I had, all of that stuff, my own rage, which I didn't realize I had a lot of, but it just showed up differently.
Yeah, it
You
showed
know,
up
just
differently.
showed up
Mine was at
differently.
the surface all the time. And I just, like I said, I remember talking to God and say, God, help me. Remove this from me. I don't want to be upset all the time. I don't want to be angry all the time. This isn't normal. If this is life, then what kind of life is this? And to be honest with you, after I prayed that, God really did help me little by little, one brick at a time. Like I said, it wasn't a quick thing for me, but one brick at a time. Things that used to upset me, like even now, like looking back at it now, things that used to upset me don't upset me now.
It doesn't, and for me, it's still a little weird because it's like, I've been not trained by you, but just trained by circumstances that, you know, she would be upset or,
Yeah, even now, he says like things that would, like, he'll say something or like try to explain something, and he would think that I'm going to react a certain way, and I just be
yeah,
so calm. I'm like, oh, okay.
it's
Or
kind of,
I'll give him a different perspective, like, oh, well, don't look at it like that. Maybe it's this, or
and I have to look at her and be like, yo, who are you and what did you do
I'm
with my
I'm
wife?
telling you, God is good. Like, I
All the
really
time.
am a different person.
You
It's
are.
it's so weird.
Yeah, but
But God really can metamorphosize
right,
who you are
right.
by you dealing with your hurt and your pain.
And like I said, for me personally, I knew that the version that I'm sitting in next to right now was always there. Like, and again, while you were hurt, while you were broken, while you were still hard, you did have those sprinkles and those times of that lucidness of the version of you that's sitting here right now, right? So I don't want people to think that you were like 24/7,
Oh no,
365
because then
like
the
this.
relationship wouldn't have
It would
worked at
not have
all.
worked. But for the most part, because you were dealing with the things that you were dealing with, you showed up that way. And I understood that, okay, you know what? Hey, there's going to have to be a lot more patience on my part. Did I get angry and upset? Yeah. Did I take it personally? Sometimes I did. But again, that was twofold because number one, like that was, I felt it was directed at me on a personal level, and then again those things triggered things that I didn't process. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it was a double weight that was on my shoulders. But I'm super grateful that, even before therapy, there was things that I would do to calm myself down, whether I go out, take a walk, whatever the case may be. It was, thank God, it was never a situation where I was like, you know what, F you, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need this mess. I could get anybody else. No, there was no one else that I wanted to be on this journey with, period, point blank. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, okay, this is my wife. Even before she was my wife, I treated her like my
Yeah.
wife. You know what I mean? Like
He did.
fundamentally, like I knew. And that was it. It was just like, hey, you know what? Once we got together, I knew. I was like, this is it. So everything that I did, even after we signed the paper, nothing like changed or transformed. There wasn't like, oh, now we're married and I'm just this different guy. No, it was from day one till now, till by God's grace forever, it's the same. You know, I knew, at the core, you were still in there. And every day of my life until God calls me home, I'm always going to be your advocate of being the better version of yourself. And I know you will do that for me.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
That's what marriage is about to me.
It is. That's what marriage is about. And I think we're running short of time, but one thing I would like to focus on probably in the next episode is the why am I drawing a blank? But the what people think marriage is like, right? And what I mean by that is like you and I, when we first got married, you had expectations of what you thought marriage.
We're gonna get in that in another video. We don't got time right now.
No, and that's what I said. I was like, in the next.
Yeah, we're gonna get that in another video.
Right. I would like that to be the next one, but if not,
it's possible.
Then, we'll work on that. But so as we're wrapping up, first of all, thank you for being ready to do this, because this took a little bit longer.
We've been wanting to do this for years.
And now that we have it out there.
Right.
I
think this is the good time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though we wanted to do it for a long time, now that we're doing it, this is the time we're supposed to do it.
Correct.
So.
Correct. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
Welcome. We hope you like this podcast, and we're looking forward to many, many more.
Absolutely.
Different topics. Like we said, it's called Married Ever After, the Married Ever After podcast. So we're going to talk about all types of stuff involving marriage, which includes everything and anything. Everything. And, once you're in a relationship, a marriage relationship with somebody, you talk about everything. There's nothing off topic.
Absolutely. Our whole thing is we want to be as transparent as we possibly can, because number one, it helps us to grow and develop, but it also helps other people grow and develop. And one thing I would say is that, I study martial arts, and one of the things that my trainer always taught me is that if you could teach this technique to somebody else, you actually learn more in the process of teaching it than actually learning it. So hopefully in this process, by us teaching we're not teaching, but sharing from our own life,
right,
that can help someone else. I feel like we can also learn from that process, because we'll be able to get feedback and hear people say whatever they got from it. So for me, it's that.
We're not teachers.
We're not. Absolutely not. Experts at all. We're not experts at all.
We're sharing our peaks and our valleys, our mistakes and our triumphs. We're sharing it all because, we're not perfect people.
At all. We're absolutely not perfect.
So thank you guys so
Thank
much
you.
for watching. We hope you like it.
Hopefully it was entertaining.
Yes. And that you will tune in next week for the next one.
What day are we putting this up again?
We don't know yet. So whatever day it's up, it'll be up again the following week.
And this is going on which channel?
We will decide that later. All right.
All right. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great day. Bye.
Mwah.